All day. Was he just like hanging out in a?
Oh.
No.
Alrighty. Let me go ahead and get. Oh, get some.
How was that? I'm trying to think of what he just might have eaten.
Looks like a vegetable.
Yeah. I didn't give him a vegetable. Buddy, it's okay. Why is your nose all pink? I think he's nervous.
So on the first day, they don't do any socializing. They're just in
Right.
space.
Yeah.
So you saw the space, right?
Yeah.
So he was out. He saw all the dogs. All the handlers walk the dog around the space, the facility, to get them acclimated. They'll play with them like in the pen to give them some time to stretch their legs, and then treadmill time. It's typically the first day. The second time you see him, same thing. They're handling him and stuff to see how he feels about everything about certain dogs. So like let's say they have a high energy dog. If he's grumbling, we know okay, he doesn't like high energy. If we bring a female out, we see interest. We go okay, he might have interest in the female. Just walking him and them around him to see how he does.
Okay.
And then more handling, more treadmill time, more time in the pen. And then by day 3, they're seeing they kind of repeat a little bit of day 2 to acclimate to see if there's any interest in engaging. And they'll pair him off one-on-one to see how he does. And then to keep him on the leash, look for any signs of tension. He'd be collared up, of course. If we see too much tension, they'll probably talk to you and say like, hey, we try to socialize him, he's too tense, or he was lip curling or something like that. And then they'll tell you that we'll need a muzzle so we can continue, but then not have to worry about if we try something, liability type stuff.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, so even if it doesn't go well by day 3, don't be discouraged. We've had a couple of dogs that literally came here like a full 20-day program, never played until like the 21st day. And then finally they played and now they're fine. Other dogs progress faster. We don't force them, we just play it by ear. And if we see like Hank just has no interest, like he's really just defensive and like just sits in the corner by himself, then it's just not who he is.
Right.
We can't bring out anything that's not there.
Yeah.
So if there's interest, it may take time or it might be a little bit more quickly. Otherwise, if he's just like, nah, I'd rather just hang out with my humans and like ignore dogs, then like being here wouldn't help with socialization.
Okay.
Okay. And being here and reactivity on leash are 2 different things, by the way. Because we get dogs who are reactive with the owners or can be reactive, but then here they're perfectly fine and they'll be social. So
yeah, he used to have a dog walker before the pandemic when we were leaving the house most of the time, and he was going on like mini pack walks. Like the walker would have several dogs, and he always said, "Oh yeah, it's fine," And I was like, "Wow, that's not my experience." So
yeah, it's not uncommon. I mean, same thing here. Like we get dogs that are leash reactive, and that we haven't trained, but they do great on the pack walks.
Yeah.
It's different context. Because we're not his family, so we don't give him. He doesn't have anything to feel empowered to protect. Also the setting, like he's here, there's 30 dogs around him, so he's like, oh, okay, I'm outnumbered 30 to 1.
Right.
So yeah, there's a lot of different ways you can pan out. We have a dog here that did a 2-week board and train with us. Her name's Keely, she's a Samoyed. She got kicked out of her last daycare because she was becoming too growly and too rough with the other dogs, and then she plays great here. So it just has so many different variables.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I really, really, really want him to be able to socialize and play, because I just want that for him. Even though I guess it's just me wanting something that maybe he doesn't want and I should give it up, but
time will tell. We'll tell you. Like if he's here and he's not having a good time, we'll tell you like, hey, like he just doesn't want to socialize.
Yeah.
And if you want to bring him here so he can practice training, do exercise, structured exercise, be around dogs and stuff like that, then that's fine. But but we'll tell you, because the last thing we want, like I've had clients tell me that they send their dogs to other daycares, and like they'll go show up early to pick their dog up, because of an emergency. One of them, the dog was kept in the kennel the entire time.
Oh yeah.
They did it, and they're like, why is our dog in the kennel? They're like, oh yeah, he plays too rough and he bites at other dogs. And they're like, well, how often is he in the kennel? They're like, well, pretty much the whole day. They're like, but that we bring him here to play.
Yeah, that just seems like
And
a waste.
another client, they would put the dog in an isolation pen, but they used to walk dogs past it, and his dog had dog reactivity issues. So the entire day, he's in the pen, lunging and
Just
barking at dogs on the fence.
Oh.
And he's like, this is why I'm having issues trying to get my dog better, because he's
that's
practicing this all day. So we're really transparent. We'll tell you, like, yeah, you might need more time, you might need to use a muzzle, and if you bring him a number of times and he's just kind of still like indifferent, then they'll tell you that too. Okay? And then you decide how you want to approach that. But otherwise, he seemed fine. From what I saw too, with the handlers and stuff, he was relaxed, no issues. Trying to think.
I'm really hopeful because my mom has a dog that's very reactive. She lives in another state. And I mean, her dog goes ballistic when it sees other dogs. And she takes him to daycare once a week and he loves it. Has the best time, like is excited to go. So I'm hoping maybe this is like, you know, he's maybe that type of dog.
Yeah.
I guess time will tell.
We'll play it by ear.
Okay, I'll probably bring him by on Wednesday, but I'll like sign up. I can sign up now.
You should be able to do it online. If you can't, let me know.
Okay.
And also with his records, I think on your, if you go to your owner profile, it should be like, oh, you need to do this or this. To make sure his records are updated. And then since we just transitioned to Ginger, it's the same contract that you signed already, but you have to have it through Ginger. They don't sync up.
Oh, okay.
So if you could just complete that as well.
Okay.
Because in a month, we're going to turn a lock on so that if the dogs aren't immunized or anything like that, or don't have their records updated, that it's going to start locking people out.
Oh, okay.
But we're giving everybody a month to like update everything because we just transitioned like a couple weeks ago. Otherwise, you should be able to. And then in terms of bringing Hank, I think Monday through Thursday, that's when one of my most experienced handlers is here. He does all the training, does all the boarding training, the day-come training and stuff, and he's the one that's more savvy with active dogs and stuff like that. So if you want,
it would mostly be weekdays.
Yeah. So he's here Sunday through Thursday, but Monday through Thursday is when we're the busiest.
Okay.
Sundays are typically pretty slow.
Okay.
So okay. Anything else?
No.
How's just the e-collar working out instead of the prong?
I think we're good with the e-collar, without the prong. I have no problem putting the e-collar on him. So I think we're going to continue that route. And he's been really good on walks. He's no longer ahead. He's about right here.
Okay.
He might not be like 6 inches, but
sure, that's
12
fine.
to 18.
Okay.
So that's really good. We practiced recall a few times, and he's really not willing to go very far from us.
Yes.
And we also, we took him yesterday out to the forest preserve, thinking, well, there's deer and squirrels and people and dogs, and he's still kind of stuck by us, but at one point, like Steve and I kind of separated a little bit, and he was by me and Steve had this thing. And he was confused when he, I felt really bad for him because he jumped because it was at 70 and he didn't know what to do. He was like near me and he was like, and Steve just kept tapping and he finally beelined for Steve. But
this was on a recall?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's super common. So what I would do is practice and recall away from each other to teach him how to disengage from the other handler. Because he has to learn to kind of recognize or isolate the voice and return to the voice as opposed to assuming it's going to be one of you guys. And
so that really wasn't, I thought it was like a bad thing on our part, kind of doing that thing we did in the park on the first day by making him like
come back,
so we should try to
occasion.
separate.
But just prepare yourself. So like let's say you have Hank and he's with you and Steve might just walk off just like where he doesn't pick up on it and just like pretend like nothing's happening, and then you're just like randomly like just meandering away from each other and him practicing a recall. But now with the long leash, he's going to have more direction, and then also feeding there to incentivize it. Like you want to listen to the voice and not assume, because so like let's say you're here, Hank, there's like a person where this little black thing is, and Hank's past that person. If you call him, even though he doesn't know that person, possibility he goes to them. Because he's thinking go to the nearest body to turn the pressure off. So the faster I get to somebody, the faster this goes away. So here, when that happens, technically he thinks he's completed the command. So that's the exception to repetition. I would do another recall there, because he's thinking he completed it when really he just went to the wrong person.
Right.
So that's kind of
So
what we
you
said.
mean like a verbal
Come.
and a tap? Okay.
But then at this stage, wanting to keep the leash on to help direct him more easily on, you need to leave that person and come to me. That's why right now we do everything on a long leash, because he's going to make those mistakes, and this way, if he's getting stuck, we have something to help guide him a little bit.
Right, right.
But technically, Steve wasn't incorrect by tapping him, because essentially you just kind of forced the situation of like figure it out.
Yeah.
Right.
And he did, but it was like he also like looked at me as he was like running to Steve, and
Yeah.
it was like, oh, I just felt bad, you know.
It's
And
confusion.
It's like, okay.
I always tell everybody, take your time, do the steps, you know, now you're aware. But technically, if we've cued something, it's like do it or we're gonna make it happen, because that's an emergency scenario.
Right.
So that's a kind of like a glimpse of like what that looks like if something were to happen and he's taking off. You have to think on the fly, like it's like that. We're gonna go up, and we're gonna just you have to figure it out.
Right.
Buddy. So now he's kind of learning in his head, like, okay, resistance or moving away from the collar isn't gonna work. I really need to pay attention to who's saying what, and then go to them and comply.
Okay. So it wasn't all bad. It's
Yeah,
actually a
we
good
feel
thing.
bad, but like I've had clients who like go take their dog in the yard because they're expecting it's just the yard, and the dog doesn't comply, you know, because they don't see the leash. So the owner's like, well, what do I do? I'm like, well, technically you have to force a return, because now your dog's going to become a gambler. But I'm like, but it's going to suck, because you're going to be up there,
Yeah.
and your dog's going to be yipping and yelping, so eventually they cave and they come to you.
Right.
So that's why I was like, my suggestion always is practice, till we get solid, reliable recall. But if you find yourself in that situation, technically, you should work through it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay. Well, it all worked out. He
Yeah.
did what he needed to do, but we felt bad.
Yeah. So everything at this stage, always on the long leash, and always assume he's going to screw up. So that this way you already have it ready to help him. So if he doesn't get it within a couple of taps, I can keep tapping, but then put some pressure on the leash to help direct them away.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Good deal.
Anything else?
No.
So is his system turned on here? I think your remote is off.
Oh, you're right. God, I thought I turned it on. No wonder he wasn't really responding to me. Okay. What should I
And then,
start with here?
What's our number currently?
Well, I would say that on walks, he's really good. I barely have to tap him on a walk. So been around 60 on a walk, but
Okay.
70 for recall.
Okay, let's go down to 20. And on a heavy hit, the pager function, yeah, it's on, never mind. I saw the blue light go on. So if we're not sure if the collar is on, I always use the pager function. And what are we using for the resource?
Oh, it's a good one.
Okay.
This is the one where it's a big ass bell.
Oh, wow. Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay. When does the guardian begin? Once he has the object?
Yeah, he'll take it
Uh-huh.
and then he'll want to go in a corner or wherever he wants to go with it.
Okay.
And he will growl if I come to try and take it. He thinks I'm going to take it, but you know, he also kind of food guards a little bit. We give him treats kind of all throughout the day, depending,
Okay.
you know. But he always does something to earn the treat.
Uh-huh.
So I'll give him like a little biscuit or a tiny other little thing, and he'll usually stick it on his nose and make it flip it.
Sure.
And as soon as he does it, he runs in the corner. And it's like, I'm not going to take your biscuit. It's like
Yeah.
in your mouth. So
Yeah.
I'm assuming that is a food guarding move.
Technically, yeah.
Yeah.
Because he's tucking away.
Yeah.
So like food guarding can even be like when a dog is eating and they see someone to eat faster because they don't want you risking taking the resource.
Right.
Or even you'll just see them, it'll either be to eat faster or you'll even see them stop eating because they want to make sure you're a threat or not, so they're ready to go. Or even just like a side glance. So it's a different
Yeah,
degrees.
like I'm wary of a side glance. If I get that, I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I know what you're thinking.
Does he have allergies?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Do you happen to have like chewy treats or anything like that?
Chewy treats. Like on me?
Yes.
No,
No,
I
okay.
only brought this.
No, you're fine. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go grab a couple of things so we can get them set up,
Okay.
so that we
So I
can,
should put this down then?
go ahead and put it back in the bag. I'm gonna,
You're very aware of it, obviously.
because we're gonna use, actually, okay, we have these here. These are left over from previous, those not your deal?
Okay, that's unusual.
Try from your hand, it might be because it's from my hand.
Buddy,
Yeah, that's fine. It happens. I'll be right back.
I'm just surprised. Hank, that's not like you to not take a treat. Psst, psst. Good boy.
Okay. So we're gonna pop them on a long leash. So we're gonna have 2 leashes on them here. Alright, so what we're gonna do is you're gonna take the end of this one and you can drop that handle there. Well, now you took it. Alright, so what we're gonna do is you're gonna have some of these in your pocket.
Should he be getting tapped for that?
The jumping, technically you can tap.
Okay.
So anytime he does anything that you don't want him to do, you can definitely tap on the collar. But here, we might lay off of things a little bit because I don't want to kill too much drive.
Okay, I'm tapping him and there's no response.
Okay, so go ahead and go to 30. Tap, 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 right there. Go ahead and feed him right there. Okay, so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna distract him here, and you're just gonna start tapping. Go ahead and go to 35. Yeah, tap. Good, and you're gonna feed him. Good. So we're gonna start with this first, something less intense, and then we're gonna graduate to the bone. So what we're teaching Hank here is disengagement, okay? Yep. Yep. And then feed.
I'll brought my treat. It's
Okay.
great.
Great.
Freedom!
So I'm gonna give him a couple of freebies here, so he doesn't get too paranoid. Yep. Yep. Hold right there. Good. Freedom. And here, I'm gonna have you reload a little bit. There we go. So, what we're teaching is disengagement. Okay? Now, he's doing something very specific right now. He's thinking recall. It's not really supposed to look like that. What we're just wanting Hank to do is to step away from the object. Okay, but because of the
But
context.
he doesn't have to come to me.
Correct. But what we want is space. So if I'm Hank, and this is the object, right? Most people, when they try to take things, go for this.
Right.
This is where dogs get guarded. If we need to take an object for the dog, we actually don't go for this, we go for the dog. Okay? We back the dog away from the object, and then we would go for it.
Sounds like a 2-person job.
Well, unless we're professional. So, this is gonna be much easier, okay? Because he would have his bone, and you would just leave him be. So what we're doing is, you're at a distance, you're probably about 20 feet right now, is most people think when we deal with resource guarding, is we're gonna trigger the guarding, and then we're gonna to start this process. But you don't need to even trigger the guarding. What we're teaching is, Hank, when you feel this, you're gonna leave the object. We're gonna put a word to this. But we're teaching him first how to disengage. So if he disengages from the object, he's no longer in control of it. It's up for grabs. So technically, if he leaves the object and he goes over here and he's like, all right, I have nothing to do with that anymore, it's free for you to go grab. Does that make sense?
Like run over and try to beat me to
But
it?
that's the next thing, right? But that's why we have to teach disengagement first. So this is gonna be a process. I would disengage Hank. He steps away, okay? You would then go for the object. But as you go for the object, you would watch Hank, okay? When we go for things, let's say he's got something on the floor right here, right? So let's pretend I'm actually doing this with Hank. I disengaged him, Hank has gone over there. And let's say he's doing the exact same thing he's doing right now. He's facing this direction. The assumption is he's still engaged because he's facing this way, right? But potentially he's not gonna care. But we wanna assume that he is. Okay, always assume for the worst. I have my collar ready, I start to walk towards the object. Hank perks his head up, because now he's going, whoa, you're getting closer to that thing. I haven't completely surrendered it yet. I don't keep moving forward. I tap right there. He gets up, walks away further. Once he picks his spot, continue to the object.
So why doesn't he come to me for the tap?
So the way we're doing this, he's not supposed to do it this way.
Okay.
Okay, he's doing this because I'm here with the food and he's thinking recall, because that's what we've done recently. All we really care about is that Hank leaves the object.
Okay.
Okay, I would actually prefer that he doesn't go to you.
Yeah.
Because that makes things more difficult, right?
Right.
So in the home, let's say you have Hank on his dog bed. You give Hank the bone, okay? You're over here, and you decide, okay, you've had it for 30 minutes, we're done. By the end of the class, we're gonna have the cue. So I use the word out, a lot of people use the word drop. So you can say drop. You don't even have to start going to him. Just from a distance, drop, tap, tap. He gets up. Ideally, he leaves, okay? Once he leaves, let him settle. Let's say he jumps on the couch. I continue to the bone. But then as he's on the couch, he perks up. You stop pursuing. You tap him. What does he do next? Does he hop off the couch and leave the room? He leaves the room. Perfect. They can go for the object. So drop means disengage and leave the object. A lot of people will tell the dog drop. The dog drops it and they're like this.
Right.
And then they try to come and grab it. Boom.
Right.
Right? Because they're not disengaged. They dropped it, but they're still going, I want it. So we want drop and leave the object. Okay? So in the beginning, if Hank goes to you, I would ignore him. Okay? And then see what he does afterwards. If he leaves your side, so technically right now when we're tapping, he goes to you, we're rewarding disengagement, we're not rewarding him for coming to you. Just so you can differentiate. But it's gonna cause a little bit of confusion. Okay? So in the house, once you disengage them, he comes to you, I ignore him. And eventually he's gonna go, all right. He might go for the object again. I tap him without saying anything. He goes, oh, all right. Walks away. Goes to the couch, does something else, grabs a toy to play with. Then you go for it. Because if we keep rewarding him coming to you, that's what drop becomes. Drop what you have and come to me, right? But really all we want is drop what you have and get away from it. Okay, because then if he goes for you, well now let's go back to the object, and he's gonna follow you. So it poses that problem, okay? But for now, we're trying to teach Hank, when you feel this pop off, when you're having something or you're interested in something, it's not bad. Because we don't want to trigger him, okay? More often than not, it doesn't happen. Every now and then I'll get a dog that when you tap them, will start to like escalate a bit, because they don't know how to disengage. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're teaching him when you feel this, you walk away from it. So we're feeding him for walking away from it. But he might think we're feeding him because he's doing like a recall type thing. Okay? So as you practice this in the actual, like in a realistic context, it's gonna start clearing up for him. And you're gonna see him just disengage and leave the object and do something else and not exactly come to you. So when you practice this in the home, you give him the bone, let him have it 30 minutes. When you're ready, drop, you start tapping, He gets up, he walks over to you. I continue with what I am doing. I leave the object alone, I ignore Hank. If he goes back, you tap him with no words because you're saying it's off limits. He comes back to you, I continue to ignore him. Eventually he's like, okay, well, if I'm not supposed to come to you and I can't have that, I'm gonna go do this instead. That's when you take the opportunity to go for the object. And eventually he's gonna stop coming to you because he's not gonna be rewarded anymore. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna do a couple of more, and then we're gonna start transitioning, we're gonna start layering in the word of drop, and then we're gonna start bringing in the bone, okay? So I'm gonna give them a couple of freebies, because you can already see, and go ahead and go down to like 25. Yeah, buddy. Yeah, boy. Come on. I know what's this. Good.
I shouldn't.
And now you'll feed. For this exercise, yes.
Okay.
Okay. Once you go home and start applying this on your own, we're going to start refraining from treating. Go ahead and feed there.
Buddy.
Good. Thank you. Yeah, go ahead and walk him over a little bit. Yeah, boy. So I'm going to give him some freebies. And then feed. Good. So now what we're going to do, same exercise, but you're going to say drop first. Okay. Once you say drop, you're then going to kick in with the taps. Okay. The moment Hank disengages, you feed. Okay. So everything stays the same that we've been doing, but now you're going to cue drop first.
And
now,
that's when he's in the frenzy of eating the treats and very engaged.
Correct.
I just decide,
you're done.
drop, and then start tapping.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, so if you say drop and we see Hank leave immediately, you're not gonna tap. Okay, you're gonna, yes, or you can say good dog, whatever, and then feed to mark, that's exactly what you're supposed to do. Okay, so now we're putting a cue to it. And we have to, when we do this right now, we have to be careful of how much we do it because it can create a dip in drive where he's not gonna wanna take anything. And I'm gonna have you go down to 15.
Drop?
Yes. Tap. Good, hold. Good, because he re-engaged, right?
Yeah.
So that we don't repeat, we simply tap. And what you're telling him, and that's fine too, is when I cue drop, it's completely off limits.
When I said drop, he, without me,
Mm-hmm.
and then I tapped because he re-engaged.
Yes.
But,
That's all fine. So we're trying to teach them, if you disengage with just the cue, nothing happens, but then if you re-engage, something will happen.
right.
Because sometimes dogs will think like, is it a real drop? Because there was no tap to reinforce it. Does that make sense? So then they'll like, what happens if I go back to it? Because I avoided the hit the first time, and it's like, nope, the tap
Okay.
comes in, he's like, oh, okay, drop means drop. So even if I try to re-engage, I'm still gonna give a consequence, okay? And we're going down lower because we're trying to keep him still interested in taking treats and food without killing any of that stuff. Because then it becomes,
Drop? I didn't even tap him.
that's good. Free dog.
Free dog.
Okay, what's that? Okay. Get it.
He is very wary.
Go get it. What's that? What's that? Yeah.
Drop. Good boy.
Good.
Free dog.
We'll do a couple more.
Free dog.
I'm gonna change up I'm gonna move a little bit just to change it up for him. Because then you'll start
Yeah.
getting this like the corner.
Drop.
Yep.
Good boy.
Free dog.
Free dog.
He's got the drive.
Drop!
Yep. Tap. Tap.
I'm just reaching for the treat.
It's okay. Tap. Right. Tap. There you go. I got confused there. You shouldn't have technically tapped on the last one.
Yeah.
Because we don't care what he
Because he was
does.
right there, I
Now,
know.
what you're gonna do here is you're gonna walk towards the treat, but it's still off limits. Okay? So if you see him preemptively go for it, you wouldn't say drop, you would just start tapping to disengage him. Does that
So
make
I
sense?
should just casually walk around and see what he does?
Because I can see him, look, he's eyeballing it. Okay? So go ahead and just walk, it doesn't matter, don't feel none of that stuff. Okay, just walk and see what he does. Mm-hmm. Because he knows it's there. Okay, see how he looked at it? So go ahead and just walk right next to it. Okay, now wait a second. You see how he's holding back? I'm gonna have you say free dog.
Free dog! Wow, okay.
Okay. So,
So he was associating like bad things with the treat,
yes, until given permission. Okay?
which is good.
Yes.
Okay.
So the reason this is so quick is because we're talking his language.
Right.
Physicality is looked down upon because abuse, right? I get it. But dogs are physical animals. If so, this is a dog bite, no one will say, oh my God, your dog abused you? Right? No one would say that. Like, this is a dog that didn't want to go in the kennel. And I mean, I wish I didn't get bit.
Yeah.
But I like this because I show people, like, that's it. Dog didn't want to go in the kennel. That's why he got bit. And the dog comes from daycare, he comes from boarding. He did a boarding training with us for 4 weeks. Not for aggression. He had never been in the kennel in his life before. He was 1 year old, Great Dane, never been kenneled, never been trained.
He's like, well, you're stuffing me in this box.
Yes, so because I understand where he was coming from, I didn't take it personally. His owners were scared, like, oh my God, you're sue us. I'm like, I'm not gonna sue you. This is my job. This is what happened with your dog. He's welcome back, just let him heal up, right? So he comes to daycare regularly, he's a boarding client, all that stuff. He's great, he's a friendly guy. First time ever in his life being put in the kennel, he's like, no, I got bit, okay? So, and I use this to show people, that's just dog. So here, the e-collar, which is, everybody's, oh, you're shocking your dog.
Yeah.
It's because of how what they think or how they understand it to be.
Right.
But he would bite another dog or person if he has something he's going, hey, you're not gonna have this.
Well, he used to bite our other dog, and that's during like mealtime.
Sure.
I mean, they would be separate bowls, not separate rooms.
Mhm.
And he would, there was food guarding. And if I was in the kitchen making stuff, they'd both be hovering around. And, a couple of times he would corner the other dog, who was a lot older.
Mhm.
And many dog fights happened in the kitchen.
Yes. So that's dog. Okay, but no one would say, oh, those dogs are abusing each other, right? Dogs are physical animals. So everybody's always like, man, this is so quick. And I'm like, yes, because it's not just the e-collar. The e-collar is being applied in a way that he understands as a dog. All the other stuff with the food and the luring and everything is great, but that's human stuff. Okay, so it's like, if you go to a country and you don't speak their language, you're gonna have a real hard time communicating, right? But when it comes for dogs, same thing. Like, everybody insists that they understand our language, when why not we just learn how to speak their language? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So this is physicality, and we went from 35 to 25 to 15. Okay, we worked backwards.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to keep them still engaged, still wanting to have things. And you might see a dip, which is normal. Then we would just lay off things for a bit, let them kind of recover, and then try again. Just like the recall. I was like, if you throw a recall 20 times, she's not going to want to wander from
Right.
me. So then if I see that, I just ignore the dog. And I spend a couple weeks getting them comfortable with being free again. And then I reintroduce the recall, So it's steps forward, steps back. The more we teach with this, the more problems we create. It's a super common, okay? So here, through the treat, we left there. You disengage them, drop. And I said, he's not under any command. You walk, and you can see him glancing at it. And he's like, that treat's still there. He's like, I would like to have it, but I know it's off limits right now because of physicality. So you just claimed it. That treat, when you said drop, you said, that's off limits. That's mine, until I give you permission, okay? You stood right next to it, and you could see him hang back, right? And he's like, I know it's not mine. Free dog. Boom, right away goes for it.
Yeah, because I was surprised because he's right there when I'm making dinner, and if something falls on the floor, he is like on it. like
Yes.
boom.
Yes.
So should I try to practice that? Like,
So what we
because
would
I do give him stuff as I'm going along.
Right.
Maybe I should stop doing that?
What I would do is use it for training, okay? Because this is all about repetition. So right now I'm teaching you how to teach him how to not be so impulsive with things on the ground. I'm also teaching you to teach him to relinquish an object when given the cue of drop, and giving the cue of now you can have it again, okay? So if I'm in the kitchen, I'd have him collared up. And let's say you're cooking chicken or something, right? And I would test and throw like a piece of chicken, you know, on the floor at a distance of him to give you time to be ready with that remote. And just throw it. And if he goes without permission, you wouldn't say drop. You would just tap. And what you're teaching him is just because food falls on the floor does not mean it's up for grabs. Okay?
Yeah, because sometimes I drop something that I don't want him to have, and I've
Exactly.
lost like things. like,
Sure.
like a whole,
Just like a little
like a
vacuum.
whole hard-boiled egg, like rolled off the counter. It's like, okay, it's gone.
Correct.
Not that I'd want it anyway after it fell on the floor, but.
Right. But for him, right, if you have a piece of chocolate, a piece of garlic or whatever.
Exactly,
to him.
yes, a couple times. It's been something like that.
Yes. So you would be, you know, I'd probably be 20, 25, a little bit higher, and throw it on the ground, and then just be ready. Okay? And then he goes and I tap him, no words. And he's gonna back off and go, oh. He's like, you mean if something falls on the ground, I can't just have it? And just no. Okay? And then you could do one of two things. Now, one, you could technically say free dog and say, now you can have it. But I would focus on first is disengagement or an automatic surrender or relinquish. So if he goes for it and you tap him and he stops, I don't want him to just stop. I want him to stop and go like, you know what, maybe I shouldn't. And he walks out or walks away.
Oh.
And then you go back to.
So just like stopping and staring, it's not good enough.
Correct. Okay, because as an animal, he's gonna keep staring and eventually he's gonna be like, fuck it. He's gonna go.
Right.
You know, that's me with donuts. Like I see them, like, all right, I'm gonna try to ignore that, but if it just stays there, like I'll tell my, like, because people give us sweets all the time. I'll tell my employees, there's stuff in this lounge, eat it, because if you don't, I will eat it.
Right.
You know, so I need the e-collar. So here, I throw the chicken, I disengage him, but I want him to think, oh, you know what? It's a response of something falls, instead of I go for it, it's I walk away from it. Okay? So what you're teaching them is that disengagement makes him less impulsive, can help ease some of that resource guarding down, because he's not thinking finders keepers, because he's primal. Like, you know, you can go to the store and pick up more chicken, or whatever, right? There's more kibble, all that stuff. He doesn't know that. He doesn't know you got that bone for him, and there's more bones out there for him.
Right.
He's just
I guess
thinking.
that's something they just aren't going to learn. I just thought, you know, because he was very underweight when we got him, really underweight, and I just thought, well, now that he's getting like a regular meal, like he would learn, he doesn't have to like inhale his food. He still inhales his food as fast as he can.
Right.
And I guess that he'll never get over that.
Yes and no. You can use like a puzzle thingy to slow him down. You know, my kid used to inhale her food when she was a puppy. Now she's slowly, like she's still a pretty drive eater, but he's got good food drive. So I would think, I would categorize his eating fast more so as like just part of his drive for food. But he's never gonna learn like, oh, I'm in a home that guarantees me 2 meals a day and biscuits and a bone and I'm good. Like he doesn't associate that. He just thinks, even when you give him something, he's just thinking, you're surrendering this. This is now mine. And I'm willing to protect it. And I'm willing to fight for it. Right?
So they really can think like that. I don't know, that seems like a high order of thinking.
That's
Like,
very primal. Well, because you're thinking as a human, because I'm explaining in human words, but this is all instinct. You know, and I mean, I myself always wonder, like, I wonder how dogs actually think things.
like would a dog give another dog a thing? Like would
Oh,
they-
like an object? Like I've seen it happen where a dog will give a dog a not give, but like give like a tug to get them, to incentivize them to tug with them. You know? But definitely where we get a dog and they have an object and they're guarding it from others, because it's just primal instinct.
Yeah.
I don't know when I'm gonna get another thing like this again.
Right.
Even if it's been daily for the past 2 years that he always gets a bully step.
Right.
They don't know.
Okay.
Okay.
Interesting. It's interesting where like they can learn things and where they're.
The limitations.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's interesting.
He's all about present. He doesn't think future, he doesn't think past. He's all about now. He's like, okay, I got a bone now. but I don't know if I'll get a bone tomorrow, and I don't remember the bone from yesterday, but I know I got this right now.
And you're not gonna get it.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So dogs are like light switches. So let's say he's got a bone, and I come in too close, he starts guarding it. And then I walk away, he turns off and enjoys his bone.
Right.
Dogs are on or off.
Yep.
There's no spite.
That's exactly my
Yep.
experience and why I wanted to do the bone guarding.
And this is why we do disengagement, because he's either engaged or disengaged, on and off. Okay. So here, if he's got that bone, and I go, let him have it for 30 minutes, drop, tap, to disengage him, but disengage him completely, right? Where he gives space and gives distance. And when you go forward, you're correct, he might want to re-engage, because now with you going towards it, you're a competition.
Right.
Okay? So that's why whenever in the beginning, or actually always, just as force of habit, like here, if we have a resource guarder, you'll always see us face the dog and crouch and look as we pick up something. So we can pick up on any little cue of engagement so that we can stop it and teach the dog that this is a complete disengagement.
Right.
Eventually, what he's going to learn through repetition is like, let's say he did re-engage as I go for the object. And he's like, hey, I want that. And I tap him, and he's like, oh, and he walks away. And you'll see him go further, and he'll like sit down and kind of observe. And I go to pick it up because it's a good distance, right? Because if he starts charging me, you got plenty of time to stop him with the collar and turn it up if needed.
Right, but he's still looking at you.
He's still looking, but he could be like at the corner.
So far enough away, it's okay to
Right. And
go
then
for it, and then if you see him,
any forward type movement,
then
he
he
would
gets a tap.
Yeah. And then I go to pick it up, and eventually what can happen is he goes, oh, when you say drop, I disengage, and when I see you going for it, I should probably just disengage even more, because every time I try to move forward, I get tapped. Isn't it? Because it's just like, you're biting them at a distance.
Yeah.
So that's what makes it super effective, because I could be upstairs and tell him to drop and make him completely disengage and not have to worry about triggering resource guarding. So it's just knowing what that threshold is and working around it. Okay, so we don't have to piss the dog off to get the point that we're looking for.
Right.
Okay. So what we're gonna do here is go ahead and get some distance there.
Sorry.
Let the leash go. You're gonna tell him free dog.
Free dog.
So he's got it, right?
Free dog. That is a high value item, my friend. Free dog.
Apprehensive.
He's not trusting.
There we go. So we're just ignoring for a little bit when we step away.
Free dog.
So then here, so this is where when you do resource guarding, it's gonna take time. So we did some back-to-back to give you practice and handling skills on this, okay? Is when you go home, you wouldn't drill it like this. You would just drill it as you go about life, okay?
Right.
So let's say you go home, you give him the bone on his dog bed, and he takes it to the corner, okay, whatever. Let him have it for 30 minutes before you cue drop. And then you disengage him, and then once you feel like it's good, you go over with the object and put it up. The next day, you give it to him, 10 minutes, drop, right? Same concept. The next day, you give it to him, 10 minutes, drop. He disengages, free dog again. He goes back to it, let him have it for another 20 minutes. Drop, disengage him, put it away. So we're not doing back to back to back to back to back.
Right, and we're
'Cause then-
mixing it up a little.
Yes, because so sometimes it's off limits completely, and sometimes it's I'll let you go have it again. Okay? So then here, because then we'll create this trust where he's thinking, can I really have it? And that's just a trade-off, right? In the beginning. But this is where just whenever this is fine. Whenever he's taking something,
That bone is obscene.
you let him either have it for as long as 30 minutes before you disengage him, or 10 minutes, disengage him, then let him go back to it again, and then disengage him. You can even give him an object like a bully stick, and let him just complete it, okay, as opposed to disengaging him all the time. So this way you're not creating a guarantee of like, okay, when I give you something, at some point I'm gonna tell you I'm not really take it back.
Right.
Sometimes I don't have something to completion, okay? So changing that up, so this is gonna take time, okay? But it's that simple, is whenever you're gonna give him something, and also If you want to give it a reward at the end, like let's say you take the object away, you put it up, good, treat, quick little treat. Okay, so he's going, okay, cool, I can get a quick payment too. So what we need this to transfer to is you're out on a walk, maybe in the yard, you don't have the collar on, the neighbor threw a chicken bone. Drop, right?
Yeah.
And he disengages. But it takes time and repetition of doing this to get him to the point of even without the collar, he knows just to disengage immediately.
Yeah,
Does that make
that
sense?
would be very handy on the beach when there's something dead on the beach and
Right.
he wants to eat it.
Now, with stuff like that, and maybe you want to leave the bird, but if the answer is I never want Hank to eat something off the ground, anytime he goes for it, you simply just tap him with no word. Okay, because you're teaching him it's off limits. Because technically drop is off limits when you say it. Does that make sense?
So I can just tap him, we're on the beach, he's going after a dead fish, I don't want him to tap with no language.
Correct.
And that'll make him disengage.
Correct. And he's just thinking, if I see, kind of like the chicken in the kitchen, right? It's like, oh, if I see something, I just can't have it, right? I have to wait for the cue of free dog, and then I can potentially have it,
Okay.
right? It's kind of what we did over here. So if I'm walking on the beach and I see a dead seagull, and he goes for it, I go tap, and he's like, oh crap. I was like, I can't have seagulls. I'm like, no, we just keep walking. And then he'll learn the next time he sees a seagull, I want nothing to do with that, because I'm just gonna get tapped. Does that make sense? Otherwise, if you always cue that word, he can technically have a seagull until you cue the word. That's how a dog brain works. So when you want to eliminate behaviors, you simply correct, no warning. When you want to control a behavior, you want to have a word and then the correction if needed. So earlier we taught him how to disengage using food and reward. And then we cued in the word DROP and rewarded that too, right? So now he's thinking, okay, when I hear free dog, I can have this, but when I hear this, I have to disengage from it.
Right.
Okay. So in most cases, it's when it's something on the ground, outside, I would just assume he's not going to be able to have it. Okay. And then when there's something inside that I give him, when you present the bone, you wouldn't just give it to him. You would present it, and if he goes for it without permission, you would tap him to disengage him. And then you would say, free dog.
Oh, yeah, you can only have it if he's
Give him permission.
interesting.
So it's like me growing up. Cookies in a cookie jar. I had access to them. Didn't mean I could have them whenever I wanted. I had to have permission. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So same thing for him. So when I come out, like when I see owners come out with like their balls and stuff for the dog is jumping for it all crazy, we just start to correct them and we teach them just because I have the ball doesn't mean you have it. Unless I say, okay, great, well, then you can have it.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Go ahead and cue PRP.
Drop.
Tip. 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 I'm going to bump it. We're not going to repeat, we're just going to slowly increase the number.
Okay, I'm at 20.
Okay. Tip. 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 25. Okay. Tip. Give me a second. Good. So you see how he's coming towards you? He's looking away from the object?
Yes.
Okay. So right now, because of what we did, we created this problem of, oh, maybe I'm supposed to return to you, right? But in the house, you would just ignore him and like, why don't you just turn away and like ignore the object and just walk around this way? So he's gonna follow you, right? So like, let's say you're in the home and you do this exercise. So he's thinking about it. You would just go off and do something else. Go back to watching TV, go back to reading a book, and he's thinking, oh, okay, I wasn't supposed to do that. He's thinking about it, right? He's looking at you. Wait a second. Wait a second. He's thinking about it. Give him. There. Because he was side-eyeing it. Okay? So he's trying to get a feel for see how he's wanting to go back. Okay? So what you would do in the home is once you disengage them, we're going to most likely create this problem. Okay? You would go and do something else. Once you see him either try to engage again or walk off and do something else, you would either correct them or at that point, once he walks off, you would go then take the object, put it away. Yep. There. Okay, and we just ignore him. So eventually he's going to think, okay, when I come to you, I don't get any kind of reinforcement anymore, like we did at the facility. I'm just gonna do something else then, because I can't have that. You're not gonna give me anything, so I'm gonna go sleep on my dog bed.
Right.
Then you would go, but then when you go to re-engage with the object, you wanna have eyes, okay? So what we're gonna do here is I'm gonna step on the leash to limit his range of motion. Is you're gonna walk towards the bone. Okay. So watch him. So he was looking and his ears perked up when he saw you moving towards it. Okay? So when you're walking towards the object, here I have him so he can't get anywhere. You want to have eyes on Hank. Okay?
Oh, okay.
Because you want him to watch for re-engagement. So there was re-engagement. His ears
And
were
I
like
was
this.
looking at the bone.
Correct. Okay? So now you're going to crouch down and you're going to keep eyes on Hank. There you go. You're going to pick it up. Good. So you see how he's kind of watching?
Yeah.
But his posture didn't change. So he's engaged to a degree. Now, could you push this more to disengage him even more? Yes. Kind of like with reactivity, where we can push to the point where he doesn't want to look at the dog, right? But if you do too much, you're going to risk the issue of him then not wanting anything to do with anything, okay? So we're trying to play a fine line of like, okay, buddy, like, you can have it, but when I disengage you, you need to let it go, and I'm going to pick it up, and we're not having problems here, okay? What you're going to do is go to drop it again, or place it on the ground.
Sorry, it's leaving a big mess.
It's okay, we'll mop it up. Yep. Right, and you back this away. Okay. Go ahead and take a step back. Okay. And you're gonna look at Hank, and you're gonna cue free dog.
Free dog!
And we're gonna just unpack it a little bit. Okay? So you can either completely.
Free dog!
It's okay. Yeah. So, when you do this at home, I did the long leash just in case, so then someone can step on it. And if there were to be re-engagement that you didn't catch or anything, he's not gonna get anywhere. He's gonna get so far, okay? That's all personal preference. But again, you could literally be in a different room, drop, as long as you can see him and get him to complete the disengagement 100%. Then once he breaks away and he's at a distance that you feel comfortable with, you walk for the object and you just keep tabs on Hank. Okay, so when you went towards it, he stayed on me, only his ears perked up. Okay, when you took steps back away from it, it's actually when he moved forward. Because when you're close to the object, technically like you're in possession of it. So when he saw you back off of it, he's like, oh, is it up for grabs now?
Right.
That's just primal instinct kicking in.
Yeah.
So then I had you tap him there, because it doesn't matter what your distance is of that
He
object.
ran back to you.
When you say drop, it's drop until you hear free dog. And then you can have it again, maybe. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Go ahead and drop.
Drop.
Tip. 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 Go ahead and pump a few levels. Tip. 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 Right, you thought about it. Yep. Good. Okay, so what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna limit his leash again. Wait a second. Okay. Go ahead and step towards, you're gonna come around this way. Good, you're gonna pause right there. So do you know why I had you go come around this way?
So I could watch him?
You can watch him, but also give distance. Because if you would have went straight there, right? So we're also watching how we're approaching things. Coming around this way puts a bigger gap, because you want to imagine Jesse's not going to be stepping on the leash to
Right.
provide limitation
Got it.
for Hank, right? Is you can take the long way, so in case he were to try to re-engage and move forward, you have more of a distance to give you time to tap on the collar. This stuff, I don't think you're going to see it, but I'd rather you know the information going into it and we avoid bad habits. Like the stuff that we do here at my facility, all my employees, I tell them, assume every dog you see here is not friendly. Okay, so that when they move dogs through, when they're taking dogs out of kennels, they're always practicing this dog is not friendly. Because if they're going, well, this dog is friendly and this dog is not, you're going to get confused one day,
Right.
you're going to forget one day, you're going to get mixed up, and they do the wrong move with the wrong dog, we got a problem, right? But if we're treating every dog the same, and we're working with caution, less likely to get that error.
Right.
So same thing here. So when we pick up balls from the playpen and everything, we do this. We come around, we approach the object from behind so I can see the dog. If the dog engages, we crouch down, we pick up the object, we're watching the dog break, we throw it. Okay, so which is always practicing these habits, so we prevent things from happening. Okay, so then now go and try crouching. Good, and you're gonna take a step towards me. Good, another one. Okay, he's kind of, you can see him licking. He's like, what do I do? Another one. Okay. I'm gonna have you bring the bone out in front of you. Okay. See how there's a little bit of a move forward. Okay. Tip. Good. So you can't even sniff it. If it's in your hand and there's been no permission given, it is off limits. Okay. Can you take things from your hand, no problem? Like if you give him a bone, will he not trigger, or will he get defensive if you give it to him in your hand?
I only had the experience when, not this bone, but a similar bone. I wasn't paying any attention. He had been eating it for, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes, and I just happened to go by him. And he looked at me, and I was like, what do you think you're doing? And of course I started talking to him, you know, doing the absolute wrong thing.
Sure.
And he was like, you know, and then repositioned, like,
yes,
you know, this is my bone.
Yes.
He was moving away from me, and I just kept like going, hey, you know, I kept talking,
Sure.
and it just, you know,
escalated.
Yeah, and I did not try to take it.
Yeah. Well, that's
because
smart.
I was like, I'm not going to just stick my hand over there.
And just so you know, how he handled that is technically healthy. Because he was like, hey, I have this.
Right. He gave me a warning.
Yes.
Like he gave lots of warnings because I kept trying to engage him.
Correct.
Trying to reason with him.
Correct.
You know.
His reasoning is physicality.
Yeah.
Okay, so like right here, whenever you bring anything, so like the next time you give him that bone, I'm gonna have you come out with it. Keep it in your hand. If Hank makes any movement within 6 inches of the object, even to sniff it, you're gonna give a tap to disengage him, okay? If Hank were to start chewing on it and like 20 isn't working, don't rush it. Let him do it. 20, 25, 30, then he backs away, then you continue with what you're doing. There's no rush to get to the answer. It's all controlled context, okay? Because if you try to pull it away like, no, until you get ready, you're gonna create more drive.
Right.
So here, him having a few bites off of it until you get to the appropriate number is not gonna be detrimental. You getting him to disengage at the appropriate level consistently is what's gonna help, okay? So eventually he's gonna go, oh, when mom brings that bone out, doesn't guarantee I'm gonna have it. So I might bring out something and walk right past him and put it away. And then that's when I might bring it out and go, free dog, okay? So he doesn't, most people, when they bring something for their dog, like a ball, it's a guarantee. We're gonna do something. So then we can build craziness, because the dog thinks it's a guarantee.
Right.
Every time I see that ball, we're gonna go for it.
Right.
No, sometimes you bring it out and nothing happens. Sometimes I bring it out and I give you permission to have it for 10 minutes, sometimes we tell you to let it go, and then I'll let you have it maybe, or I put it away. You're varying what's gonna happen with the object.
And I'm assuming this can work with him, like, trying to get at our food.
Yes. But
He's pretty good at the dinner table, but if we're like, say, oh, we're gonna go sit in front of the TV and the food is on a table that's, you know, at his height, he thinks he can go up and sniff it.
You would correct that.
Okay.
And that would be an elimination, right? Don't even sniff our food. So the moment, if he sniffs from 4 feet away and you're comfortable with that, fine. But definitely once he's in that 6-inch foot range, that's where he's gonna get too driven.
Right, and that's where he would actually maybe go in for it.
Correct.
He hasn't done it yet. He's usually can be, he has not growled or, you know, trying to get him away from that, but I just don't like it. I want to be able to put a piece of food down and not have to like worry about it.
Yeah. So this is the baseline for everything. Anytime you give Hank a valuable reward, have him collared up, okay? And then pick your time frame. 30 minutes, you can even disengage him for 10 minutes. Like, I'm just like, give it to him, let him have it for 10 minutes. Drop, you tap him, and he walks away from it for 10 minutes, and you leave it right there, right? So anytime he tries to go back, you correct him, and then you decide, free dog. he goes back to it. You know, so like you can really test and teach impulse control, like to a high level.
Okay.
Just don't drill it, because then he's not going to want anything to do with anything. Okay? Make sense?
That makes sense, yeah.
Okay. So this is going to be a process, it's going to take time. So anything you give him, that's going to be for an extended period of time, have him call it up prior. Okay? From time to time, you can give him something that he can complete to finish, like a bully stick or whatever. So he's like, oh, sometimes I get stuff and I get to have it the entire way. When it comes to stuff outside, dead birds, dead squirrels, whatever, you would just tap him. That really doesn't matter so much in terms of the number. Ideally not too harsh, because it's just, yeah, you're gonna have nothing to do with that. But if you hit him too harshly, potentially it'll overlap with this, and then make this a little bit more difficult, just because he's gonna be dissuaded from wanting to have anything to do with anything.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
Questions?
No, it's a lot. I know it's simple, but it's still.
I'll try to have this up too.
Yeah, that'd be great, like
As
the
quick as
sooner, because then I can share it with Steve.
Yeah.
And then we can, yeah, maybe not confuse him or ourselves.
Yeah, but you see how he's like passive and stuff?
Yeah.
That's disengagement. You know, he's going, okay, I see it right there,
Yeah.
but mom said drop, and it means I can't have anything to do with it. Okay? Very important that we don't talk a lot here. We talked very little. You cued once and you took your time on the caller. That's it. The more you talk, the more you stimulate.
Right.
Okay, and then potentially pushing them into
Yeah.
guarding mode. Okay?
Okay.
Good job.
That makes sense.
I'll have someone come in and mop.
Bloody bone all over the place.
We'll give it tap. So you see how he's even taking steps backwards when he sees you move forward? There we go. Okay, I'm going to go for your bag. Excellent. Alrighty.
All right. Good job, Hank.
Do you want to wash your hands?
I'll just use the sanitizer.
Okay. We have paper towels here too. In case you want to run your hands
But I
off
just
there.
wipe up the blood off the floor.
We're gonna mop it, it's okay.
Really?
Yeah, I'm gonna have we have a mop that kills bacteria and stuff.
Okay, cool. All right.
There you are. Did you think it was gonna be like terrible?
I didn't know what to expect, actually.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't think in this controlled environment that he would do anything. But you never know, you know?
No, he's got good food drive.
Oh, he's got a total food drive, yeah.
So it made